Hello everybody, welcome back to Vinyl Tap, our series dedicated to physical media and merch, all that business, here on That's Not Metal, digging into our record collections. I do that every fucking episode, you notice? Digging into our record collections and seeing what we find. I am back, obviously. I hope you enjoyed Alex's first crack at one of these the other month, and it's been a hot minute for myself. We've been hard at work on the Weezer special and everything else that we've done. As it happened in that time, I have somehow acquired absolutely loads of stuff in that time, enough for like a few videos worth, so I'll have to spread that out. It was my birthday the other day. Look at fucking this, right? This is not music related at all, but I'm baffled by it. Apparently Nando's do personalised. It's Perran spicy birthday sauce. I didn't even know that fucking this is more of a joke present, obviously, but kind of like I didn't know Nando's provided that service. So there's a tip if you need that. Fucking baffling. I don't know if I need to like refill it when I empty it or something. I don't know. But anyway, music. First up in today's pile that I've selected is AFI. That's the back. What the hell? No, wait a minute. It's this fucking thing. AFI and Bodies. I'm an enormous AFI fan, as you probably all know by now. I mentioned it enough. And so, I would buy basically anything that they put out to kind of fit in the collection. This, though, as I hope you've now heard on our Album of the Year show that went up this week, is almost shockingly high on my releases from this year. It's a kind of comparatively slight record from them that left more people scratching their heads than last time out, when for kind of most of our lot at least it was kind of seemed to be AFI celebration time again. Those wins they come and go, but like I said on the show, I just kept listening to it. Like, this was just my pop crack for 2021. Like, the songs are just so sticky and so addictive if you go with the sort of vibes that they're going through, and it jumps around all over the place because it's a pack of 2 to 3 minute songs that are all high energy and fizzy, jumping around all different styles that AFI have some kind of like kinship with, which I think it rewards being a more obsessive listener of their work in general, because there's bits of this that remind me of Black Audio and kind of that kind of hyper poppy stuff, but future poppy even, but in this kind of AFI context, there's stuff that's more dancey than maybe Flight's Dream Car, whatever. I think if you like one thing that AFI do, this will probably leave you cold for like 80% of its track list. But if you like hearing them flex all kinds of different things that they again have some kind of kinship with, have some kind of dalliance with in the past, it's like a greatest hits of all things AFI, and not even just that, but Davey Havoc, Jade. It's a lot, and in that sense, I think if you take fucking like Escape from Los Angeles, Looking Tragic, and Tied to a Tree or something, like all on the same album, it's pretty mental. And the melodies and hooks are just outstanding. Like, they're all so catchy. Once I got my head around what kind of record it was, this has secured itself in my heart that the way that all of the last records have. It's got this weird little tab thing at the top there, which is what I was fucking around with before. It's where the album title is. I'm not sure I like it. It means just this is the record, and you've got to kind of slip it on and it fucking falls around all the time. But there it is. It has the cover out, all these dancing bodies and stuff like that. Got some boobies going on there, and the pressing is very, very fancy. It's on I think they called it like Ghosts or something, because look at that, mental, fucking like semi transparent, looks pretty ghostly to me, so I think that suits. It's a very nice looking record, I think, that one. From the kind of end of year things, while we were sort of like, it's landed a little bit awkwardly for some people. I think again, where it kind of the amount that it showed up in your guys' lists and stuff like that, feels like enough people have kind of gone with them on it. It's a nice other chapter in the the ongoing AFI legacy. Again, in mine, fucking going like, yeah, it's better than Converge and all this kind of nonsense, but I just had so much fun with it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, AFI and Bodies. Next up is, I do not have my album of the year for 2021 yet here, because there's a, don't know if you've noticed, there's a worldwide vinyl shortage, and they haven't pressed it yet. I think that's coming out in like early to mid 2022. But I do have my album of the year for 2020, Anaal, Nathrakh and Endarkenment, with this cover with the peak with cocks in its size, masturbating to the end of the world. Yeah, all that. Purchasing that in HMV was a laugh. It's got the fucking somewhere in here. Yeah, it's just this slip, which is the censored artwork. I don't know why it's even in here, because it wasn't on the front. It's just inside. This is what you have if you listen to it on Spotify or whatever, but we're not about that. We're about the pig with the cocks in its eyes. I'm not sure that the printing like quality, or like the, probably can't see it here at all, but it's not great on the logo. But yeah, what a record! I think this is my favourite record of the last few years. Like, the title track is the best song of like the last 5 years or something. It's unbelievable. I remember thinking, how funny it was that in the end of 2019, I was trying to decide what the best thing Anaal, Nathrakh had released that decade, what it was for the album of the decade list that we did with Vanitas, I think is what I ended up having in there. The Whole of the Law is spectacular. And then, within 12 months of me doing that, they released my favourite thing that they've done since the 2000s. Like, this record is what powerful metal sounds like. There are bands who spend their careers pining for the mainstream, being weak as fuck, who don't write choruses a fraction as massive as the ones on this record are. And Anaal, Nathrakh are doing it while, like, atom bombing your head. It's a fucking unbelievable thing to listen to what they do. And this album, as I said quite a lot in 2020, but a year on now, there have only been more times when the content and the sentiment of this record has rung true in my head. There hasn't been a record in our current hellscape, and I don't just mean the pandemic, like wider than that, that's just kind of brought it to light, that has resonated with me on where we're at, like this one has, the age of Endarkenment. Sometimes it feels like a fucking warning message beamed in from the future of like, look where we're going if we don't sort this shit out as people, culturally, as a species, anything. This was the first time that they had published like full lyrics to an album, with a couple of clever exceptions I quite like Beyond Words, haha. But because they felt that this one time, laying the message out loud and clear was important to the effectiveness of the album. And if you're a fan of this record, I would really recommend picking this up, because as well as that, you get these like annotations to kind of the notes for each song, and literally just those notes on each one are some of the most compelling, thought-provoking things associated with a record in the last few years that I have encountered. Like, it really adds to the sense of scope, like across the world. It all sums up, it's all summed up in this record, and the problems it's tackling. It's one of the most like powerful pieces of heavy music on the planet right now. I think it's a masterpiece, this record, and I was so glad to see it like impact with as many people last year who might never have listened to Anaal, Nathrakh before, like even when they might not have been digging super deep into this kind of guts it, whatever, just the surface level, like, oh my god. Yeah, no live shows for it as of yet. Nick, the guitarist, he lives in America, and Dave and I imagine the rest of the guys who play in the live band are in the UK, and obviously that means we haven't had any shows. Although I have seen Anaal, Nathrakh without Nick before, when he got like stuck on, in America or something, as a fairly last minute thing. But in general, I hope to, hopefully they do a record. Like, they're on a schedule of like an album every 2 years or something, and that would mean the cycle for this is kind of running out at this point, and I want to fucking see it. Yeah, Anaal, Nathrakh, Endarkenment. Next, I have 3 albums altogether. It's At the Gates with At War of Reality, To Drink from the Night Itself, and The Nightmare of Being. I bought all three of these in one go, hence why they are here together, in a record shop in Leeds recently when we were there for Damnation Festival. I was annoyed a bit because I wanted to buy some stuff from Akukoka at their merch stand, but when I went over there in the evening, they packed it all up, and so after the festival, when we were just looking around, I said fuck it instead, and I got all of these when we found them. At the Gates are one of the bands nearest and dearest to my heart. Like, I know that everyone likes to look like they like At the Gates because they recognise their contribution to metal's evolution and everything, and Blinded by Fear is a banger or whatever, but At the Gates records still are events to me, and again with the end of year list for 2021, which had The Nightmare of Being in it, these three records have a kind of a legacy into themselves at this point, because I remember when they posted that teaser video in late 2013 that revealed that they were going to be they were actually making a new album after a few years of just touring, which is all that I really ever thought it was going to be. I remember, I think they played Bloodstock 2011 or something, and I wasn't there, and I was quite bummed because I don't know if I'll get to see At the Gates. I don't know how long this reunion run is going to go. And then they posted that video being like, new album coming 2014, and I was fucking bouncing off the walls. I couldn't believe it. And then it came, and I adored it. Like, 2014, I think, is one of the most insanely stacked years for like modern classic type records in the kind of music that I love of the last decade, and this was one of my favourite albums on it. I got to see them on this record for the first time on the Cycle for It when they headlined Damnation Festival. It was bliss, and then 2018 rolls around and we get To Drink from the Night Itself, and I think this record's even better. Like, the title track from it, it dropped when me and my friends were in the Netherlands at Netherlands Death Fest, and when they were going to be headlining on the Sunday night, and I think the track dropped on like the Friday or something, and which was so exciting to experience in that kind of moment. We see them in 2 days' time, and here's this fucking amazing new track. And every time we were in the hotel, like not seeing a band or whatever, we were just fucking spinning that song all the time, just like, oh my god, this is so good. The record is darker and scarier and a bit weirder than at War of Reality, while being at its core still like fundamentally ripping at the gates. Like, it is a more murky and nocturnal kind of At the Gates devastation compared to this one, and that was kind of enough for me in terms of variation. I was like, oh my god, we got fucking two amazing comeback records, and that the second one is like slightly darker and whatever. But then we get The Nightmare of Being, and it's fucking demented, like, with all of these crazy influences and kind of, instrumentation ideas, full prog rock detours, saxophone, everything. Incredibly creative and accomplished, while, again, all within that same dark At the Gates mood and image. I think I said on the show this week that, it's not like At the Gates have one great initial comeback moment that makes it, a good return. Like, I think Surgical Steel by Carcass is a better individual album than any one of these At the Gates records. That's like, again, it's a fucking 10 out of 10. And I of course, I really, really like the new Carcass as well. But At the Gates, outside of that, again, that one moment, they have built one of the greatest ever comebacks for heavy music, because they are building a further legacy with what they are doing and what they are continuing to doing. Like, what these three albums together represent and the trajectory that you have going through each one, it's really special, I think. And again, it's more than I ever dreamed of back when they first announced that there would be new music back in 2013. I think they've fully cracked the visual identity for themselves on these records. Again, look at the kind of consistency of it. The 90s stuff often has very 90s decisions and budget and stuff like that, but there is a through line between these and their merch and everything that conveys At the Gates. At War Reality has this like lovely like lyrics booklet that has like all of this awesome kind of art in it that again, it was very in line with the record aesthetic and stuff like that. The fanciest presentation of the three, I guess. The Drink from the Night itself, also pretty cool. I don't think Nightmare Being is a gatefold, unfortunately, but again, the three of them, they look the part, and At the Gates are my guys, and Slaughter of the Soul is the masterpiece, but records like these and the kind of journey you're going across them are the reason why, as people and artists, that is the case. And it's so strong, I think, as well as the stuff pre-Slaughter of the Soul, that I'm kind of considering doing an At the Gate special at some point, if that's something anyone would like that. We're really lucky to have At the Gate around doing what they're doing, I think. And yeah, fucking good on them. Next up is The Lighthouse, and the score for it by Mark Korven. I have mentioned it a couple times, but Robert Eggers is my fucking dude when it comes to people making movies right now. Both his films are 11 out of 10s that I have no qualm saying are as good as anything else to ever come out of the horror genre and beyond. Because is The Lighthouse a cut and dried horror movie? Is it? Fuck. But fucking The Shining, The Exorcist, whatever. I am happy saying The Lighthouse and The Witch are on that level. They are literally my number 1 and 2 movies of the last decade. Mark Korven's work with Robert Eggers on both of them is sensational. I have a lovely just get this here. I have a lovely art print for The Witch that sits above my desk when I'm at work. But Mark Korven's work with Robert Eggers. I absolutely need to find the score for The Witch at some point, because it's key to it being as successful as it is. And we've arguably had a lot of copycat stuff for that kind of dark, scratchy, ye olde folk music and whatnot in the last few years for what that score is doing. But he matches the moods of the different films so well. And The Lighthouse, with its dark, monochrome, look at that, fucking maritime atmosphere. It's brilliant on this record. It sounds like being alone on a rock, miles from shore, with no means of being reached or contacted in fucking violent storm weather, with the only light coming from that fucking cursed spinning tower above your head. You fucking, I tend the light is mine, which is a the light belongs to me. That's a track list on here. There they are, fucking the boys. Robert and Willem, literally two of my favourite movie characters, especially Willem, but the two of them, they're so fucking funny together. And honestly, the way that this score uses, it must be fucking oboes or bassoons or something, but the feel is ship foghorns and stuff like that, really in touch with again the imagery and stuff going on. We've got credits here: Waterphone, Apprehension Engine, and Accordion, played by Mark Korven. We have bowed glass, a brass orchestra, all this kind of stuff. Again, there's Willem, and there's Robert. But yeah, huge, bassy, doomy kind of sounds. There's the first track, Arrival, that plays as the two of them are taking the boat out to the lighthouse for the first time, and obviously in the film it's all fucking grey and hopeless, but the track is amazingly effective. You get the burst in intensity and shrill panic that you get when he finds the mermaid. That track, it's so good. I was reading some Junji Ito horror manga a little while ago when I had this playing on. It was a nice little experience. The new Robert Eggers film, The Northman, is supposedly coming out in 2022. We've not had any kind of promotional material or anything for it yet, which is a little uneasy, but I can't fucking wait. Bjork's going to be in it, and Mark Korven, I imagine, will be doing the score again, and I can't wait to hear his old Nordic kind of musical moment, if that's what it's going to be. The partnership of Robert Eggers and Mark Korven is definitely one of the best that we have in terms of the modern horror sphere, in terms of a director and a musician. I was talking about Howard Shore and David Cronenberg in one of these other videos, and this is in that kind of lineage. Genius movie, one of the true best ever, and a phenomenal score to go with it. This record up next is from Dread Sovereign. It's called Alchemical Warfare, which, knowing the people in Dread Sovereign, is definitely a nod to what you think it is. Dread Sovereign is the side project from Alan Averill from Primordial, playing with like Johnny King from Conan and Outer Plagues and Billy and other bands. I think the guitarist is just called Bones, and they've been kind of good like for a while. But this is their third record that came out earlier this year, and it's brilliant. Like far and away the best thing that this band have done so far, which was a lovely surprise. The sound is basically like old school 80s underground metal, by which I mean like old like trad doom is a huge foundation of it. Like if you like Candlemass and obviously loads of Sabbath and stuff like that. There's a lot of old Manowar as well, but they also like increasingly so on this record perhaps they scum that up with like blasts of Venom and Bathory and stuff like that with Alan Averill, who is this like extremely powerful baritone heavy metal storyteller, basically like going fucking apeshit over the top of it. Like it's glorious, and the balance of those things on this record is it's absolutely brilliant. Like really fucking grand occult language going on, like she-wolves of the savage season, the great beast we serve, nature is the devil's church, her master's voice, that kind of shit. Very proclamation kind of shit. With some really super catchy refrains and choruses and that kind of like old school 80s metal way, but there's so much grit and bite as well. So if you're thinking like quite lightweight trad metal revivalism or whatever, it's not that. It's like it's underground heavy metal. Like it's dirty and boozy and fucking raising hell. Like I bought this at a show a couple of months ago. They actually managed to get a tour going, and I bought this from Alan at the merch stand, and he didn't have any change for what I gave him, and so he also just reached into his bag and produced this, a little CD of Blood Revolt, which is his the record that he did with the guys from Revenge, and it's fucking insane. Like legitimately like one of the most unique one-off sounding metal records that maybe has ever been made. Like it's so strange, like kind of like war metal but with like a fucking huge like heavy metal clean singer on it. It's really ridiculous, but it's got fucking had like loads of dust on it, so fuck knows where he was keeping this, but that was a nice little surprise. But this Dread Sovereign record, one of my unsung records for 2021. Like was it going to crack my 20? No, we didn't review it on the podcast. I don't think we found the moment or the impetus to, but it did stick with me, and it's great work from some of my favourite artists in metal ever. I would say that if you like classic metal, but with the kind of the filth and the satanic intent of the underground, it's a hugely satisfying listen that you should undertake. And next, if you thought that was cult, we go further down the rabbit hole with Necromantia and Crossing the Fiery Path and Scarlet Evil Witching Black. What a fucking brilliant title. This has been one of the bands from sort of occult metal history that I've enjoyed diving in on this year. Necromantia are a Greek black metal band who they kind of came up as part of that like early 1990s Hellenic black metal scene, down there. It's one of the great kind of unsung sources at large when it comes to like the wider rock world's acknowledgement of it, of like cool underground metal from that era, because outside of there's Rotting Christ, who are of course like the biggest one, but outside of Rotting Christ, who are like just the gods of it, I think Necromantia have possibly become my favourite from that scene and that time. I saw that basically Cult Never Dies, which is one of my favourite like stores in the UK for like shit like this. There's your tip. They had these records in stock. I was familiar with the name Necromantia, but I saw these covers, like particularly the one for Crossing the Fiery Path. Look at that fucking dude. I had to have that. That's my guy right there. And this one, like, well evil as well. And I was like, yeah, have to have those. The Greek black metal scene, like, part of what makes it so rewarding and interesting to dive into is bands there have some really unique characteristics that are noticeably different from what is going on in Scandinavia or like Brazil or whatever at kind of the same time. And Necromantia really take that further, I think, because it's really like riffy, malevolent, grandly occult kind of primal black metal. But instead of using primarily guitars for riffing, they use an 8-string bass. This really distorted 8-string bass guitar to carry the riffs. So even compared to the other Greek bands like Rotting Christ, Varathron or whatever, it's got this really unique, low, buzzy, distorted kind of sound. I think they only use a 6-string guitar for like some of the solos and stuff like that, and it makes it sound so evil, like just this really like fucking dirty Lemmy by way of a Transylvanian crypt kind of tone. And the records have some mental detours, particularly this first one. There's a song called The Warlock, which opens it. It's like 14 minutes long or something, and it has these like weird like ambient stops with fucking spooky keyboards, and then like sudden jump scares of people like screaming before the band finally come back in. There's fucking medieval chanting. There's Castlevania-y bits to match this wonderful cover art. There's like a moody interlude, like bass solo kind of track. Probably a lot of faff, but it's a really strange, like weird atmosphere kind of record. This second record, they cut down a lot of what people probably would consider the faff, and it's just fucking great. Like really brilliantly high quality 90s Hellenic black metal with strong songwriting, superb riffing, that same evil tone. So I would say that if you want a more like just kind of direct black metal entry point, all riffs, no funny business, I would say try this one, Scarlet, Evil, Witching Black. But this one is so odd. Really happy to have these in my collection because they are such cool relics of an interesting time of black metal history. And this band, they just put out like a couple months ago a final record. They only made an album like once every fucking decade or something, like after this initial period, and they've just now closed the book on it. And I believe some members, along with people who are in like Rotting Christ and some of those other bands from that time, they're in that new band Yothariah, who put out a really fucking good like modern sounding record in this kind of style. I love these. These are wicked. And maybe if you like stuff like Rotting Christ, or you're just interested in some unique 90s black metal that isn't part of the usual Norwegian lot and what that can sound like, you could give these a bash. Crossing the Fiery Path is on a quite very nice blue, and I would imagine Scarlet, Evil, Witching Black is on a red of some kind. Yes, it is. Very nice. Lovely pressings of, again, really interesting obscure 90s black metal releases. I love it. More modern, something that some of you will be more familiar with, is Pupil Slicer and Mirrors. I think I'm going to keep my talking about this to a minimum, because I'm going to be talking about this more, I think, on the award show, like coming in the next few days. So I will keep this somewhat brief. But this is, it's one of the most exciting debut records to come out of the last couple of years, particularly from a UK perspective, where we've seen bands like Employed to Serve and Conjurer and Svalbard like all blossom from small underground beginnings, and hearing Pupil Slicer on this reminds me a lot of when I heard like Employed to Serve on like Greater Than You Remember and those kind of moments, except way more all over the place because this record is fucking deranged. This is probably one of the records in this video, again, that more you will be familiar with because it got a lot of love this year. I think it was in like the top 20 of listener votes or something for this year, because it was high, and that's fucking incredible. Haven't seen them live yet because unfortunately I think a lot of us were really clamouring to get them on the Damnation bill, but maybe next year. But this kind of grindy mathcore played with such fucking ferociousness and passion as well, and this many ideas and stylistic turns. It's a pleasure to hear. I really wish for great things for Pupil Slicer, because they seem like good people who are making incredibly creative and fucking violent extreme music. It's on some mental colour, I think, neon green on a kind of like black basis, and quite sweetly as well. This record was delayed by several months, I think, in its delivery because of, again, the time that small bands are having getting their records out right now. And Luke, the bass player, he included this little handwritten note to me saying, "To Perran, thanks so much for supporting Slicer and purchasing this LP. I hope you enjoy Mirrors. In 22, we hopefully should be doing some shows. I hope we play near enough to Merseyside for you to attend. On a side note, I think Corrupt Moral Altar are from your ends. What a great band." Also a good band, yes. Thanks for the patience, as it has taken a good while to get this vinyl to you. I hope it is worth the wait. Hails! Cheers, Luke. I don't know if he's put Hails because he has any idea who I am and knows I enjoy saying that, or whether he's just also a fan of the term. But yeah, that was a nice little inclusion that I'm going to keep in there. Yeah, Pupil Slicer. Another record that's had a great run in 2021 and pleasingly won over all sorts of people is Wode and Burn in Many Mirrors. UK black metal leaders, I would say, at this stage. Like, they've jumped from promising part of the scene to like incredible with this record, and the amount of people recognizing them on it as well. I did say most of my piece on it in the album of the year list just recently, but this record rips a frankly unreasonable amount of arse. Like, it's so exciting on a primal level. As a lover of heavy metal, as a lover of extreme metal, as a lover of satanic mayhem, this record makes me want to bang my head, and it is so awesome in its songwriting at the same time. Like, it's 6 tracks, all really distinct. The song, the turns that songs take. Often there'll be a unique thing on each track that no other song does. It can be really surprising and rewarding at times as well, like in how adept it is in kind of moving from piece to piece, but it also just goes and is so savage. Like the heavy metal DNA in it. 3 of them I think are in another band called Aggressive Perfector that I fucking love, and that's like pure venom and like first album and EP Slayer and stuff like that, like blackened speed metal debauchery. And this has these kind of turns into like new British heavy metal and stuff like that, and even like early 1980s Motley Crue I get reminded of sometimes on it, that are so fucking awesome when put in the context of this raging black metal band. Like, this is the kind of black metal that just instinctively like excites me, like, and gets me going. It's genuinely creative and explorative, but without having to be like, oh look, we made it pretty and put in some soft parts or whatever. Like, it just wants to fucking spit in your pint and burn a few crosses. The cover, I think, is another of my favourite cover arts of the year. Like, awesome, that kind of spine going down the middle, and then these spooky, ghostly chaps like holding their heads or whatever on the side. Again, back art, like really awesome paintings and stuff across it. I think was it $20 spin that put this out, which probably explains again part of the kind of the raise in profile, because people have come to trust them so much when it comes to extreme music, and this is another example of them absolutely delivering the goods. Yeah, they've had a fantastic year, Wode. It's been great to see this record get the plaudits I think it deserves. I've also just a couple of days ago, I think, I've ordered, they are repressing their second record, which is the one of the 3 that I do not currently have. So they will be back here at some point also. Okay. Paradise Lost, next up with Lost Paradise and Gothic. These are the first 2 Paradise Lost albums. These were both just put out by Peaceful once again a few months ago, and it was fantastic timing because I was due to see them perform the latter record at Damnation Festival in November, and getting to just sit down with it like this on this kind of format was exactly what the doctor ordered. I adore Paradise Lost. This is the second one of these videos that they've turned up in so far. I've only done like 4 of them. They are one of the great examples of like heavy music underground artistry that this country has, I think, and they've gone all sorts of places across their career. These 2 are right back to the source when they were at their darkest and their heaviest. Lost Paradise, which confusingly, again, they're called Paradise Lost. They do have a self-titled record called Paradise Lost, but the first one is Lost Paradise. But it is such a extreme and vicious album. Like, it's absolutely the most intense that Paradise Lost have ever been. Like, you think of Paradise Lost as being a kind of classy and like quite majestic kind of band who are gloomy more than they are aggressive, but like they're not one you really think of for Blast of Extremity. Lost Paradise is an evil fucking album. And then Gothic, I do, again, spinning the two back to back, it's easy to think like, oh yeah, these two records are when they were like back in their Death Doom days, but the difference is really pronounced. Like Lost Paradise really is an ugly and horrifying guttural record that exists kind of, as part of what was going on in the underground around it, Death Doom and that kind of stuff. And then Gothic is where a legend is born. Like this record has a real magical aura to me because it feels so much like of what I love really took off with this kind of record. Like, if you enjoyed our hymn special when we were talking about them channeling the likes of Paradise Lost on stuff like Venus Doom, like again they go further with that after the record's after, because it still has those kind of those extreme roots to it. But this album is a magical burst of a creative synthesis that I think it's really due some more time on TNM, I think, to uncover. But Gothic metal, like taking underground extreme metal like what they were doing on Lost Paradise, and lacing it with these other kinds of music for this gloomy but romantic even kind of effect. Like everything about this, from again this fucking like the art design and stuff, like they had the full 30th anniversary merch range over at Damnation Festival, stuff like all this kind of shit. Like it's so it's fucking this band picture where Nick appears to be wearing some kind of like velvet shirt, like full he's like an extra in an Anne Rice novel, Anne Rice film even, in that picture, like the fucking the classic metal side where they dedicated like one of the songs when they were playing it at Damnation to Eric Wagner from Trouble, who he died of, I think it was COVID, earlier this year, because there's so much like trouble in that particular song, and it is there, but like the feel and effect is so new because again it's in this kind of romantic kind of context. It's a milestone record, Gothic, and in fact I think this early 90s British underground metal scene in general was so full of creativity and fascinating stuff as a movement that I would love to do more on. Seeing them do it, a one day only in this kind of indoor setting, was truly wonderful. All those melodies, ringing out in, the title track or Eternal or whatever. There are some nice liner notes and stuff, the kind of thing that I was complaining about the Draconian Times reissue not having, or on Gothic at least. And yeah, a special moment of a record that belongs in the collection of anyone who is interested in the growth of dark underground music, and Lost Paradise just fucking crushes. And last up is Video Nasties and Dominion. This is on, I think it's called like Flaxen Yellow or something. A rather horrid yellow, which is, I think it's suitable because one of them told me that the song Stay Gold is apparently about piss play. But I think this record is where I began to notice how fucked the current vinyl pressing situation is for bands. Because this pre-order went up like right at the very beginning of this year. This album came out in 2020. The vinyl pre-order went up in the beginning of 2021. We were big on it on TNM. I believe I had them as like best new band or something on the awards last year. And then it kept getting pushed back and back and back until eventually it was sent out just like a few months ago. And the guy at the label was emailing me apologising for the delay, and he was saying that they are pretty sure that the pressing plant that they were using was spending all of their time and resources putting out ABBA greatest hits collections as I guess it was a kind of a swell in demand for that around then, coming back. But shit is getting hard for people. But anyway, this record is awesome. I'm glad to have it now. Liverpool band playing scuzzy horror VHS tinged death and roll, basically. Like this marries Carcass and Entombed with Black Breath and Sludge and shit like that. It's an all-out fucking riffer of a record. Like it's so fun and so satisfying. They hit one kind of spot, but it's the most satisfying spot, and I love it being hit again and again. They're the kind of thing that, again, I love to have them around as like a good times riff staple on the kind of UK circuit and stuff like that. And I don't think you have to just be like super into extreme to like it as well. Like the riffs are much fatter and more universal than that. Like it's just awesome, groovy, headbanging music with a kind of just a serial killer screecher up front and some moody horror synth stuff thrown in between. It also came with this, which is the Draw the Shades single, which they released earlier this year, and it's on a flexi disc. The guitar tone on this, on the record as well, but like the guitar tone is fucking deadly. But this baffled me a little bit because I've never owned a flexi disc before. I always associate them with that the Decibel series where they get bands to like record like unique songs and stuff to put out on a flexi disc with I guess subscriptions of the magazine or whatever. But getting this, I was kind of nervous about it because you had to like tear it off like out of the thing, and I didn't want to rip through the fucking grooves or whatever. I don't think they're very good like sound quality because they're so thin, but they are, you know, cheap to make, I suppose. So it's cool to have it for this one single, with fucking flopping around on the turntable and stuff. Great track as well. Like, again, recommend it if you liked the album and maybe didn't follow up on it. They've had a really good year as well in terms of you know, the album came out last year. They had that single back in like, you know, March or April or whenever it was. I saw them on tour at like a tiny little fucking sweat box, or, you know, rather green fucking smoke machine box as they made it, here in Liverpool. I know they went down well at Bloodstock on the Sophie Lancaster stage, and then I did see them again at Damnation, where they had just a room full of people fucking dancing and grooving, crowd surfing over the barrier on top of an inflatable shark, including, I think, Nick Ruskell from Kerrang was among those going over. Yeah, like I know that 2020 didn't go as they had planned it, because they put out their record right at the very beginning of the pandemic when no one saw it coming, and then didn't get to support it. But I hope that they feel they've made up for it in 2021. And that is it for this episode. We're going to try and get a stream of these going, I think, as it's, you know, it's Christmas, and we're taking a breather from the specials and that kind of stuff. And you know, what else are the holidays for but showing off tat? Hopefully all three of us will be back with these over the next little while. We've got the TNM Awards coming this week. The Album of the Year show just up, if you haven't listened to that yet. And of course, you know, the big spectre of Weezer behind us, if you haven't dived in on that yet. I think it was like 11 or 12 hours or something like that. So there's a lot to keep you feasting over Christmas. Thank you very much. See you there for all of that, and I'll see you again for one of these on, I guess, the other side of Christmas. So yeah, cheerio.